Hello and welcome to In Summary. Today we'll be diving into one of the most devastating and least talked about crises. It's the war in Sudan. So you might have seen loads of talk about Sudan in the headlines, so you might be wondering what's going on. We will break down exactly what's going on in Sudan in this particular video. We'll go through how the conflict started, what's happening right now, and what it means for the region and the world. So let's start from the beginning. Sudan has been through decades of instability, military coups, civil wars, and a long-running conflict in Darfur that has made global headlines in the early 2000s. The latest round of conflict began on April the 15th, 2023. Two powerful groups, the Sudanese Armed Forces and the Rapid Support Forces, have turned on each other. For many years, both groups have been accused of atrocities, and over time they've gained influence in Sudan. After long-time dictator Omar al-Bashir was overthrown in 2019, the military and RSF promised a transition to civilian rule. But that power-sharing rule quickly fell apart. The two sides clashed over control of the country, and by April 2023, the country plunged into full-scale war. Since then, the conflict has turned Sudan into one of the worst humanitarian disasters on Earth. So you might be wondering what's happening now. Well, as we speak, the fighting has continued across multiple fronts. But the Darfur region in western Sudan has become the worst hit. Recently, the RSF captured the key city of El Fasher, the last major stronghold of the National Army in Darfur. That's huge because El Fasher has been under siege for months, with hundreds of thousands of civilians trapped. Satellite imagery and eyewitness reports show sightings of mass graves and large-scale killings across the city. The UN in particular has warned of possible war crimes and even genocide. Human rights groups are warning civilians are being targeted. Meanwhile, in the capital region, both the SAF and RSF have committed atrocities. There have been executions, airstrikes on residential areas, attacks on hospitals, and looting. The humanitarian toll is staggering. Over 25 million people, that's over half of Sudan's population, now need urgent aid. Millions have left their homes and many have crossed into Chad, South Sudan and Egypt. The UN says Sudan is facing the world's largest displacement crises and famine is spreading fast.
لكن الآن لجان نظرة الفاشل. لجنة التحقيق تبدأ فوراً في تحقيق ومحاسبة أي جندي أو أي ضابط ارتكب جرم أو تجاوز حدوده في حق أي إنسان ده فوراً يتم القبض وعلناً أمام.
Entire cities are running out of food, water and medicine. Now you might be thinking, why should the rest of the world even care? Well, first, you should care because of regional stability. Sudan borders 7 different countries already dealing with their own conflicts. Chad, South Sudan and Ethiopia will all be impacted in some way. If Sudan collapses, that instability could spread across East Africa. Secondly, there is foreign involvement. The RSF is believed to have backing from the United Arab Emirates, which reportedly benefits from Sudan's gold exports controlled by the RSF. Other regional powers also have stakes, whether military, political or economic. And third, there's the humanitarian dimension. The level of suffering is catastrophic. Entire communities have been wiped out, famine is looming and disease outbreaks like cholera are spreading. And finally, there's the geopolitical angle. If Sudan effectively splits, the RSF ruling Darfur in the west and the army controlling the east and central regions, Sudan as we know it could cease to exist. That would change the country's politics and economics entirely. So what is the world doing about this? The United Nations have condemned the violence and are calling for a ceasefire. Humanitarian agencies are trying to deliver aid, but access is extremely difficult due to the violence. Diplomatic efforts between countries and world leaders have stalled repeatedly. Neither side is willing to back down. The Rapid Support Forces now control most of Darfur and much of Western Sudan, while the Sudanese army holds part of the east and some strategic cities. Each side believes it can win, which makes peace talks even harder. Hospitals have been destroyed or looted. Food prices have skyrocketed and water systems have collapsed.
Still in Al-Fashir and have no access to food, water, or medical assistance that they need very urgently. You have to bear in mind that most of the health system in Sudan has collapsed, and definitely not in Darfur. So whilst people are being wounded, there's no means to treat them.
International attention compared to Gaza and Ukraine has been minimal. As you know, we haven't heard as much about Sudan as we have about other wars. This is happening so rampantly that the UN is calling the war the Forgotten War. So what happens next is entirely dependent on real pressure, both from inside Sudan and from the international community. If the RSF continues its advance, we could see the de facto partition of the country. That could mean years, even decades, of more instability. If the war drags on, famine will deepen, more people will flee, and the risk of Sudan completely disintegrating will rise. But there's still a narrow path to peace. A negotiated settlement could happen if international actors stop fueling the war and start enforcing accountability. Sanctions on arms shipments, stronger humanitarian corridors, and war crime investigations could all make a difference. Above all, the Sudanese people need more global attention. I'm sure you're wondering what you can do. First, stay informed. One thing you can do is share verified information about Sudan, especially from Sudanese journalists and aid agencies. Second, you can support humanitarian agencies that are active in the region. The UNHCR and the World Food Programme, for instance, are good examples of organisations that can be utilised. Awareness really does save lives in crises like this one. In summary, Sudan is in the middle of a brutal war between the army and the RSF, and the people unfortunately are paying the price with famine, displacement, and unimaginable violence. This is one of the world's biggest humanitarian crises, and yet it remains one of the least covered. If you found this summary helpful, like, share and subscribe for more summaries like this one. Thanks for watching, take care, and I'll see you in the next one.